All right, friends, I need you to take out of your desk one of the compositions that your parents sent with you to school on the first day or the first week. What I want you to do on the front is I want you to label it Math Journal and your, okay? Those are the two most important things you need. If you need a Sharpie to do that or a pen, you can do that because it needs to make sure that you're able to see it and recognize it when you're pulling it out of your desk, okay? We're going to be starting a new unit on Awesome Algebra. This Awesome Algebra unit is going to give you a student notebook that looks like this. The title of the unit is Looking for Patterns and Generalizations. So we're going to talk about what those things mean. But I need you to open up your math journal, okay? And I need you to open it to a blank page. In this case, it would be the very first page. And I need you to title it Awesome Algebra, okay? And just as you see it here, you need to be recording it in your notebook. When you take notes, it's important that the notes are legible, which means you're able to read them, okay? And they're also organized, okay? So we're going to title that Awesome Algebra, and we're moving into chapter 1. I believe there are 3 chapters in this unit, and this particular chapter is called The Name Game, okay? The Name Game. Now, these are going to be key vocabulary words. They're going to be very important for you to understand because I'm going to be referencing them quite a bit during the unit with the lessons that you're doing. Okay, so we're going to write math vocabulary. Okay, and we're going to go down our margin, which is right here on the red line, and we're going to put a number 1. Okay, notice how I have skipped a line. It's very important to skip a line there because you want to make sure that it's very organized, okay? So the very first mathematical vocabulary word is the word function, okay? And in math terms, a function is a generalization or rule, a generalization or rule that describes a unique relationship between two elements. Now, these are some big words that are within this definition. So you might be wondering, well, Mrs. Cobb, what do you mean by a generalization? And what do you mean a unique relationship? And what in the world are elements? Well, I'm going to tell you what those things are, okay? So I'm going to give you an example of what this means. So for example, and yes, you're copying down the example because it's important that you know, okay, what the meaning of the word is and how it applies to your understanding. A pattern by 2s, this is just an example, it could be a pattern by 3s, might go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, okay? The first element is equal to 2 times 1 because 2 times 1 is equal to 2. The second element would then be the next thing in the pattern, which would be 2 times 2. Okay. The third element, and yes, you do need to record all of this in your math journal, would be equal to 2 times 3. So the fourth element, friends, would then be equal to 2 times 4, and the fifth element 2 times 5, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the definition of a function. So when we're talking about algebra, we're going to be talking about 2 different types of patterns. First off is what we call a growing pattern. So I'm going to move that up there, and I'm going to write number 2 on the side. Notice I skipped a line, and you need to do the same, making sure that you're staying within the margin there. So a growing pattern, and we've seen some of these growing patterns in some of the worksheets that we've done together, is patterns that show a change between elements in a pattern. Patterns that show a change, patterns that show a change between elements in a pattern. And you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of vocabulary there within that definition. What exactly do you mean? Well, here is an example. If you have a pattern that looks like this, it is a growing pattern. 2, 5, 8, 11. So what is happening, my friends, in that pattern is that it is growing by 3. Okay? The pattern is growing by 3. Okay? So we have growing patterns. We also have what we call repeating patterns. So if you think of what the root word for repeating is, it would repeat. So a repeating pattern is simply a pattern that is duplicated a number of times, repeats. Okay, so I'm going to flip my page, and if I need to pause the video, I can do that to make sure you have everything. Okay, and I'm going to write. I can write on the back of that page if I want, but I can also write on just a blank page there in the front. Okay, so I'm going to write down my third definition, which is a repeating pattern. Okay, it is a repeating pattern. Okay, and a repeating pattern is patterns with a cycle of elements that is duplicated many times. Patterns with a cycle of elements that is duplicated or repeated many times. Okay, so for an example, and these are going to be letters for this pattern. Okay, you might have ABC, A comma B comma C, and then A comma B comma C. In that case, friends, the pattern has repeated. ABC, ABC, so then it would be ABC, 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 and so on and so forth. But it could also be 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, and the pattern continues. It could be with colors. You could have red, yellow, like if you're making bracelets, red, yellow, blue, and then red, yellow, blue, and you just keep repeating that pattern. Okay, so it can be with letters, it can be with numbers, it can be with words or colors in that case. Okay, and then lastly, we have one more vocabulary word that's going to be very important to understand as we begin our unit in Awesome Algebra, and that is, what is a variable? Okay, what is a variable when it comes to math? A variable is a letter or other symbol that represents a number or other mathematical object, or other mathematical object. Okay? For example, okay, in A plus B equals 6, in A plus B equals 6, A and B, A and B are variables. Okay, those are unknown numbers that represent, okay, letters that are representing unknown numbers. Okay, so in this case, if I were to ask you what could A and B equal, okay, you could tell me in this case A could be equal to 3 and B could be equal to 3. You could tell me A could be equal to 4 and B could be equal to 2. Okay, no matter how you look at it, these are the variables, and those variables represent numbers. Okay, so that, my friends, is our very first Awesome Algebra Chapter 1, the name game vocabulary words. And now we are going to apply our understanding of those vocabulary words as we begin our unit on Awesome Algebra and the name game. So I'm going to be passing out or handing out a workbook page, and we're going to take a look at the name game. Get excited because this is going to be fun.